Today we are talking about local and imported herbs. This is part of our herbal series, and I wanted to go through some of the benefits of each of those with you today. And I want to start with local herbs. So obviously growing and trading and obtaining local herbs that are in your immediate environment is quite different to imported herbs that may have come from a far away place. And when you are engaging with local herbs, they're a lot more adapted to your climate, your soil, your seasonal rhythms that you are in. And because of this, they're often fresher, more potent, and more energetically aligned to what your body may need at that time of the year. And there's also something to be said about the connection that you can form with them as well. When you use herbs that grow around you, whether it's your garden or it's sourced nearby, you're engaging with your local ecosystem. So it can have a lot more of a grounded and an embodied experience. And, it can also be a lot more sustainable and more personable. There are some cultures in their plant law, LORE, where they talk about when you're living in an environment for an extended period of time, you may start to notice that particular plants are flourishing more than others, or even that new plants are growing very close in proximity to where you are. And this can sometimes suggest that these plants have an element or an aspect or mineral, vitamin in them that your body could be lacking that you may need. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just go into your backyard and you pick all these different plants and don't do any of your research or make any connection with them as to whether they're actually something you need to consume. But this is also a knowledge and a wisdom that is very much a familiar thing to many cultures around the world that have maintained or are connecting and remembering back into their plant law wisdom that they had. Excuse me. Now, when you are looking at imported plants and herbs, obviously that can open up a whole other world of possibilities. It obviously can allow for you to access plants that aren't grown in your region and with long traditional uses in systems like Ayurveda medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and of course these herbs can still be incredibly powerful and specific in their actions as well. So especially if you're looking to support a very particular imbalance or explore and learn global herbal traditions that are not necessarily local to your area. But there are also some trade-offs with this, right? So obviously the local herbs, or if you've grown them in your backyard, they're usually a lot fresher than imported herbs. There's less travel time. There's also a quality variance that can occur in imported herbs versus what you've just grown in your backyard, or you've just bought from a local farmer, the local market that just picked the herbs yesterday. And, and the varying can obviously differ a lot depending on how things are stored and their sourcing. And of course, there is also a large environmental footprint to be considering when you're engaging in imported herbs as well. So, how do you choose which one's better? Well, I'm not going to say there's necessarily always going to be one that's better than the other. There has also been a long tradition of trading different herbs and spices, all kinds of resources and knowledge around the world for tens of thousands of years. Whether science shows that that's been happening for that long, probably, but the cultural LORE definitely talks about that. And, there were purposes for that. This was also not to say that that which is growing local to your area is not important. It is. And also, it's not necessarily wrong to also include some imported herbs if you wish, if you feel aligned to. And imported herbs could be a varying degree of distance for you compared to another person. So an imported herb to you could be something that's traveled 200 kilometers away from where you live. An imported herb for someone else could be the fact that it's come from another nation. So, if you're looking for everyday support, seasonal balance, and a deeper connection to your local environment, then local herbs are going to give that more to you than imported herbs usually do. If you're looking for a very specific health outcome or goal and establishing, building your knowledge on established herbal systems that may not necessarily be local to where you are, then imported herbs can be something that you can incorporate to align with that as well. So, in most cases, the balanced approach is a combination of both. For some people, imported herbs is also like, these are plants that weren't naturally grown in the local environment 200-300 years ago, but you have bought the seeds, you cultivated them, and now you're growing them in your garden. So for some people, that could also be considered an imported herb, even though you're growing it in your backyard, the fact that it's not native to that environment. So that could be a way in which to minimize the travel distance and also keep the herbs fresh instead of buying them dried and picked from a place hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers away. There'll also be people that would be against that because they don't believe that it's ethical to be introducing plants into an environment that are not native to that environment. There are risks that come with that as well. So, as you're aware, there's a whole lot of nuance to the whole plant kingdom and everyone's ethics about where they stand, where their plants come from, where they should be growing, etc. So I leave that decision up to you as to what feels right for you and how to go about that. So at the end of the day, it really does come down to, good quality growing, sourcing, and how does the herbs feel in your body as well. And paying attention to those factors will give you really good guidance on what herbs you need to be incorporating in your life and what herbs are not necessary for you to be incorporating in your life at this chapter. If you've got any more questions about this topic, then you're welcome to leave that in the comment section below. We've also got links to our other social media platforms. You can find them in the comment section below, and we'll see you again soon.